Hey everybody, what's going on? It is a BOGO weekend, buy one, get one weekend, because today we're selling you some logo talk, and you also get some watch alongs and some shenanigans during the Milan weekend. But we do have a special guest today, and Dave, you want to do the honors in introducing our special guest?
Yes, we have Adam England. I didn't even ask if that's your real name or just your screen name. You are a freelance writer, so you never know with you guys, right? But welcome. I read an awesome article that you wrote. I guess it came out, 5 days ago. It said it came out now. And I got super excited and I reached out to you and you graciously accepted my invitation to come on the show. So welcome, Adam. And tell us about yourself.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for inviting me. It's great to be here. So, yeah, Adam England is my real name. And yeah, I'm a freelance journalist. I cover everything from kind of music, culture, football, kind of more like lifestyle sort of things, travel, pets. Yeah, football's an interest of mine. I actually support Birmingham City, which, we're not the greatest team in the world, I'll be honest.
That's fine. You got to support your home team, right?
Yeah, we're local. Like I'm from sort of just outside Birmingham, so yeah. And then I wrote this article. I've always been interested in how logos have evolved over time and the recent changes that we've seen with teams like Juventus, Man City. You can see the Leeds United logo. The new one didn't actually last very long because of fan backlash, but yeah, it was something that I wanted to kind of explore in more detail, and Creative Block let me write the article. So
that's awesome. I actually had a question about that in terms of the freelance work. Do you go to them, say I have an article, or do they kind of put feelers out and say, hey, this is an article we want to do?
So it can depend. So with Creative Block, I reached out to the editors because I saw that they were looking for writers. So they gave me a couple of articles to write, and they liked kind of my writing style. They liked what I did, and they said, if there's ever anything that you want to, and if you've got any ideas that you want to pitch to us, then go ahead. So, a few weeks ago, I was just thinking about logos and how they were changing, and I thought, that might make a good article idea for that website. So I dropped them an email, and they came back and said, yeah, this could be interesting. Let's go with it, and it kind of went from there, really.
It's awesome. Well, I'm glad you did it because it just showed up on my newsfeed one morning, and I just like clicked right into it because you scroll past so much nonsense, right? And then I saw that one. I'm like, yes, let's read that one right now, and it all spurred from there. So thank you for writing that article. Here we are. There's another thing I saw that you worked with at one time, dogtime.com. Is that a thing? I'm a huge dog guy. I actually just had puppies as well. Like I'm a big dog guy. So I wanted to point that out. So you must also be a dog guy as well, I'm presuming.
Yeah, I love dogs. Love cats as well.
Nice.
Yeah, my parents have got a golden retriever, so whenever I'm at home, I'm always spending time with her. Like, yeah.
Beautiful. All right. Yeah, lots of dog fans around here as well. So I thought I'd mention that because everyone loves a good puppy, right?
Definitely.
No, he's secretly trying to promote his second YouTube channel that's all about dogs. That's
my wife's YouTube channel. Yeah, you can check that out. She now has more subscribers than us, by the way. Just saying.
Dogs,
puppies sell.
They do. They sell quite well.
All right. So before we get into your article, because I do want to go through those 6 points you kind of brought out with Juventus being in there. What do you see? Because you're involved, you look at logos, you're interested in it. What do you see the overall design trend currently in 2023? Where are we going with things?
I'd say they're getting more stripped back and more minimalist. I think would be the overarching theme of kind of 2023, and to a lesser extent the last few years. I'd say that's been the primary sort of thing. Then there's been a few reasons for that, which obviously I can get into later as we go along. But yeah, that's definitely what strikes me as the main sort of trend there.
Nice. Now, I did read an article today because I was just, I mean, I'm interested too, and this got my juices flowing. And I read something from Adobe. I mean, Adobe will probably have some pretty hard biases to, move the industry in a way that will make them money, of course. So let's expose that for what it was. But they also mentioned a lot of that like fun, colorful sketch look as well. That's kind of coming out, which I don't think would really work for a footy logo in this case, but it is something I've kind of noticed with brands that can kind of get away with it, like a dog food brand, for instance, would be one, right? Like a playful puppy, that kind of stuff. So, I mean, that's just kind of like the overarching kind of movement of how things are going right now, and that's just to say, designs change. What people like change, what sells changes throughout the years. And a lot of these clubs, like Manchester City, 1894, Juventus is 1897. These teams are old. They're 100 plus, right? 120 some. What was going on in 1920 obviously is different than what's going on in 2020. So we have to keep that in mind. But let's get into it. Let's talk about your article. I just want to sort of set the stage for that. And here it is. So you have 6 reasons. And your first one here is to appeal to a growing international fan base. Manchester City, I mean, is probably...
Manchester? Did you say Manchester?
My Manchester.
My Manchester.
Okay. Yeah, so to appeal to the international fan base. So tell us about this.
All right. So what I've noticed is that obviously football is a global sport and it's kind of expanded, particularly, you think since the start of the Premier League era, Champions League, and then as sort of social media has taken off, streaming, football's massive business. And a team like Man City, which was never had a large sort of international fan base until taken over 15 years ago, it never had as much of a reason to appeal to kind of a global fan base as much as the local kind of Manchester fan base. But now it's, arguably, the best team in the world, or definitely one of the best teams in the world. So it was in their best interest, I think, to switch to a logo that was a little bit more simple and sort of more easily recognizable. You can see that you've got the team name Manchester City is really clear in comparison to the previous logo, which had the initials, and also a bit of like a Latin motto, whereas now it's it's a lot more simple. It's you've got the circular design as well, which is another thing I've noticed becoming more prevalent in football logos. It's more easier to kind of recreate. It just makes it it's more suitable in my eyes for a team that's trying to kind of expand, that's trying to get the kind of the global reach that a team like say Manchester United might have, or kind of Real Madrid.
Now, you did mention a couple things there. The fact that you can actually read Manchester City quite clearly, and the circular design as well. I think we'll see those 2 themes repeat a lot, and we can get into that a little bit more. But right away, we see a couple very obvious modern design themes happening right here in the newer Manchester City logo. Now, where people will argue as well is that they still have the crest in there. So people that love the old logos or are okay with some of the newer designs, this is something that they really appreciate as well, is the use of that shield in some way within the logo. But yeah, that's Manchester or Manchester City. We'll go to the next one here. Leeds. This is another interesting one as well. A greater digital presence. So and why Leeds particularly did he choose? I'm interested with this one because I mean those are 2 very distinctly like different shields essentially.
Yeah, the when Leeds changed their logo, the whole controversy surrounding it really fascinated me. Because you've got the one on the left, which is the one they've since reverted back to using, which is very much recognisable. Certainly for football fans in the UK, and I'm assuming for a lot of fans internationally as well. It's, you know, Leeds historically have been quite a big club, and that's been their logo, or a variation of that's been their logo for a long time. And then the one on the right is, you know, it's very different. As you can see, kind of like the Man City one, they've gone for writing the name in kind of an easy to read typeface in comparison to having the initials. And then you've got the guy kind of in the lower half of the logo, which it got panned by a lot of fans when it came out. It was really unpopular because of the changes, because they said it looked like something that, you know, a teenager might design.
It looks like a political sort of design, you know, like power to the people, kind of. You know, that's what I see at first, and I'm like, well, maybe is there something in Leeds, like Leeds United? Was there like a united front in the city? I don't know the history, right? So, is there any connection with that?
To be honest, I'm not sure. Not that I know of, but it'd be interesting to go and kind of look into that further, actually. But
and that's another thing, not to put you on the spot, but like there's always a story behind these designs, right? Behind that history. But sorry, I'll let you continue on.
But yeah, I think with this logo, part of the reason it was chosen was because it's more simple, it's easier to recreate on a smaller screen like a smartphone. It's potentially easier to recognize. There's a little bit less going on in a sense. You know, there's not as much detail, I don't think. So I'd say that's the reason why some teams may change their logo for it to kind of suit the increased digital presence that they have, kind of in the age of social media and that kind of thing.
And that's huge.
Yeah.
Like it's got to work on Twitter or X, right? Like if it doesn't work on X, I mean, you're pretty much dead.
It's
really
like, it's vital these days. You know, it sounds almost obvious, but you know, you can't underestimate, I think, the power of social media when you're a football club and you're trying to get that global reach. But yeah, ultimately, this one was really, really unpopular with fans. I don't think I've seen kind of a logo change that's been received as badly as that one. And they, tens of thousands of fans signed a petition to revert back to the old logo, and eventually they won. And that's the one they've been using since, which, yeah, I find really interesting. That's one of the few times I can remember when actually the new logo hasn't worked out.
And it's interesting because their older or current one, if you will, isn't really overly complicated. It is a somewhat simple design, you know, not as simple as they were trying to go to, but it was still drastic, and I think that's what it is, and we'll see that as we get to the Juve logo, because it is somewhat drastic. You're just gonna piss people off. I think there's no way around it. But we'll go on to Bristol. This is another. This is a drastic change, really. It's gone a long way. So, to keep up with wider design trends. So, and we do see the circle again. So, what's up with this?
So yeah, something that interested me, and has interested me for some time, is the shift, not just in kind of football logos, but more generally from, I think it's skeuomorphism to flat design in things like user interfaces. You can see it with Apple in terms of how they, when kind of the iPad started out, quite often kind of icons for apps would mimic what that app looked like in the real world. So for YouTube, it was like I think it was like a TV screen or something like that.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Then you've got, if you click on like the save icon on Microsoft Word, it'll be it resembles like an old floppy disk. It's that kind of thing. But as the kind of 2010s went on, that kind of design was phased out in favor of flat design, which is more simple. There's kind of 2D icons, 2D shapes. It's almost looks a bit sleeker, but then obviously some people don't like it because they prefer the kind of not extravagance, but the detail that icons had a number of years ago. And I can see a similar kind of thing happening with the Bristol City logo. So it used to feature the coat of arms of Bristol, like the city itself, and then there was a banner with the team name underneath, and you had the year that the team was established. Very much kind of a classic football team logo from the UK. The kind of logo that our parents, our grandparents would have grown up seeing in the newspaper, on their shirts, that kind of thing. But then
It's
4
very
years ago,
quintessentially like English in a sense, right? The
Yeah.
coat of arms. Yeah.
Yeah. And then obviously you can see that the new logo is very different. There's kind of no two ways around that. It's, again, you've got the kind of, it's circular, a bit like the new Man City logo. Then the new Brentford logo as well is kind of has the same feel. There's quite a few that have gone in that direction. And they've also got rid of the coat of arms, and instead they've got a robin, which it still has ties to the club and their history, because their nickname is the Robins, which is where that comes from. So they haven't kind of totally gone against the heritage and the history of the football club. But it's more that they've started to keep up with wider design trends in terms of what other companies are doing, other industries, and what their fellow football teams are doing. And we're looking at these roundel logos, which there's a few reasons why they might be popular. I think I've outlined a few in the article, like how it's easy to make outlines of them. They look very good on social media, and they're adaptable to different color backgrounds. With the black outline they've got, it's they can kind of fit on anything. They're quite adaptable.
That's important. Yeah. Like, does it work on, can you slap that anywhere you want, essentially? Will it work universally? Yeah. And again, social media, you're just like bringing up these massive points, right? That's, I mean, the old one, although it's intricate, it's beautiful, you throw that on Twitter, you're just like, what am I looking at? Or if you try to throw that on another busy background design, like, it'll just be completely lost. So very interesting, because the Bristol City and Manchester City, I mean, they look pretty much the same thing, just with their own little unique differences, right?
Yeah, definitely.
All right, awesome. So this is another big one. This is an interesting choice that you did as well with Cardiff City, and I love the background story to it as well. So to signal in a new era, and this one's cool with the Malaysians. So explain this one for us.
With Cardiff, they got taken over by Malaysian owners around sort of 10, 15 years ago. And the feel was very much that they wanted to put their own stamp on the club, sort of signify a new era, a new direction. And again, this is another one a bit like the Leeds logo, where there was a lot of controversy, a lot of fans weren't happy. Cardiff have always been associated with the colour blue, so hence kind of the main colour on the logo on the left being blue. But then, in 2012, Vincent Tan changed not only the logo, but kind of the whole branding of the club from blue to red, which was 2 years after he took over. But again, getting rid of the bluebird as well didn't go down well with the fans. I say getting rid, obviously it's still on the logo, but
they swapped them out. The dragon and the bird are exchanged places now.
it's a lot less prominent, and that was very controversial with the fans. And then I think 3 years later it changed back, just because the fans weren't happy essentially. And I think maybe had there been more success for the club during the Vincent Tan era, maybe it would have stayed. They got promoted to the Premier League, but they only lasted a season. I think they had another season back in the Prem, but generally they've not made a lot of progress. It didn't really feel like a new era, so it didn't really work, if that makes sense.
No, it does, and I hear this argument as well with the Juventus logo as well, that we originally changed. 2015 was the original. Do I have that? Let me check my homework. It was 2017 we went to the new one. Sorry. It was when we thought we were at our height that it came in, right? So it was sort of coming in at a new era as well. It's when we were going to the Champions League's finals. We weren't winning though, and it's like almost taking that next step. And a lot of fans, I feel like, especially because Agnelli, the background of the Agnelli family as well, that was just before they brought Ronaldo in. It was like he was getting too big for his britches, right? Agnelli now no longer allowed to be part of the club because of the financial misgivings of last year. I don't know if you were tracking that at all, but he had a fall from grace, and that was sort of the beginning of his fall from grace. So I feel there's that emotional connection as well in terms of the Juventus logo, that okay, this was like the beginning of the end of Agnelli, essentially. So yeah, there was less success afterwards, essentially, is what I'm saying. So just like this with Cardiff City, yes, they made the Premier League, but then they kind of just petered out. Just like with us, yeah, we got to the Champions League final a couple times, and now what? We have a couple players banned for various reasons, and we have legal issues all over the place, right? So that's why currently our logo doesn't have that like nostalgic connection. So I love that. I love that story too. And just to harken back to your previous explanation with skeuomorphism and everything, this was 2012. Look how more like 3D this Cardiff City logo looks here, right? It's a little more 3D, a little more glossy and whatnot. It's not as much of a flat design. All right, I've kind of taken over. This is your show here, Adam. And here we go. Number 5, Juve. To look better on clothing, fashion. I mean, I'm wearing it.
Yeah, I think with this, it's kind of taking into account that a lot of the biggest football clubs in the world at the moment, they're not just football clubs in a sense. They're huge kind of entertainment brands, they're lifestyle brands, they're fashion brands. And that's why they decided to change their logo to something that looks not so much like the kind of the traditional quintessential football logo, something that's more not vague as such, but less obviously a football logo, something that could be, that could easily be the logo of a fashion brand. If you didn't kind of follow football, you might think it was the logo for, a car manufacturer, that kind of thing.
I have a perfect example of confusion where I had my Juventus hat on, and somebody thought it was the Toronto Blue Jays, our local baseball team. And I was like, no, wrong J, but close. But sorry, continue.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing. I think a logo like the one on the right is less obviously kind of identifiable, which it can be good if a football club wants to kind of diversify and not, get into other avenues like fashion. But again, the fans won't always kind of, that might not be a priority for the fans. They might prefer to have the older logo.
It's not a priority for the fans. And that's why I think there's that disconnect with it, right? That lack of emotion. attached to it because there hasn't been really championships or whatnot. Like, it's, again, going back, not to reiterate too much, but like the old one does look good, but it doesn't look good on clothing.
No, and I think this is, and here I'll tag in for a little bit. So I'll kind of throw in a quick question on you guys. How many times has Juve changed their logo in their entire history? It's just, you don't have to be right because the numbers are kind of skewed in a sense. There isn't really a right answer. Just shoot me a number, Dave.
I know what it is. I have it up on screen.
All right. Well, yeah, I do too. So for folks listening and watching at home, Juve have changed their logo roughly about 10 times in about 125 years.
And
so
technically, you're missing one there.
And I am missing one, the one without the Juventus at
You're
the
missing
top.
two. You're missing two.
That's also true.
Yeah.
But on average, because I know in the 70s and 80s, they kind of used two different types of blurred zebras as well.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, the gist of it, guys, Juve have changed their logo almost every decade in a sense. Sometimes more than once in a decade, but Juve have diversified their branding or their logo for a very long time. And I'm pretty sure that, and my thing is this, folks, I don't really have a dog in the logo fight because personally, I don't really.
You don't have a dog, unfortunately.
I don't have a dog in general, but looking at it from a branding perspective, I understand the new logo, and I also understand why people on the footballing sense don't like it, the traditionalists, as I like to call them, the ones that like the old. But, the same, could you imagine seeing the 1979 logo for the first time? You're like, what the hell is this? But again, in the 80s, animals and different types of, like, for example, U.S. Polo Association, the horse, the guy on the horse, that was
Ferrari.
Ferrari, that was big in the 80s. So they did that. So Juve have tried to follow the trends because if a lot of people don't understand, don't know, Juve aren't just trying to do footy. If you look at their Instagram page, they're also trying to get into clothing. And
they're part of the Milan fashion show.
They are. They're part of the Milan fashion show. They have, again, with the old logo, can you wear this shirt with the old logo without it looking tacky or corny? You can't. I mean, this is kind of the direction that Juve want to go to generate additional revenue because, with all due respect, Serie A ain't generating that much revenue for them. And a lot of folks are saying, why does Juve have to cater to the American market? Well, that's where all the money is right now.
This
right?
is how we afford to pay Vlahovic and Pogba for not playing.
Yeah, but it's kind of the truth, right? So if we look at it again, Juve got another fashion that all their things it's fashion based, clothing wise.
And I understand people will say we're selling out, and yeah, you need to sell out to be sustainable. I mean, this isn't a 1980s rock band that like, oh, Metallica sold out. They suck now ever since the Black album. Blah, blah. Yeah, I mean, like, come on, guys. It's 2023. We're in a corporate democracy. This is how the world actually works.
Yeah, I understand like the nostalgia, right? Because you see your Zidans and the Chesneys and all that wearing the older logo when they played, but
now you can see him wearing the new stuff.
Yeah,
because we just had the 100th anniversary.
Yep, Juve is trying to go for a multi-portfolio, a multi-diverse portfolio, because with footballing results and other items like that, you're not really going to go that far. If you look at most of the successful clubs in Europe, they have a clothing line, or they're trying to get into a clothing line. Like, for example, with Bayern Munich, they have a clothing line with Adidas. Manchester City is working on establishing their clothing line. Same thing with PSG and Jordan.
And how about our Palace? Like, how many people love our Palace kit from, was it 2017?
2017, 2018.
Yeah.
Or no, 2018, 19. 18,
okay, that one, like that Palace kit, right? That was a collaboration with a street clothing brand. People love that. So, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to. Okay, we're going to get back to the Juve. Dash, I know you got excited there and you've been quiet. You've been like the quiet little kid in the corner. Thank you. We'll get back to the last point here though, and then we'll dive into it. I think this one's pretty easy and self-explanatory as well, but that's to pay tribute to previous designs. And I think this is by Bordeaux a pretty clean just modernization of what they had. But what they had to work off of was originally a pretty decent design as well. So Adam.
Yeah, I actually quite like both of these designs as well. I think they did quite a good job. they did actually change the logo back to the one on the left in the end because, again, fans didn't like it. I think it lasted it only lasted a season or two, but yeah, something that a lot of football teams will do, particularly sometimes if they want to kind of try and become more popular with the fans, or if a new owner takes over and wants to kind of show that they get the club, they might try and hark back to an older design. Perhaps it might be a temporary one for, obviously I support Birmingham City, and a few years ago, for one season only, we changed back to a previous logo because it was an anniversary. So sometimes teams will do that. Or
yeah, and those special occasions are cool to do as well. Those one-offs, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's, it's always quite a nice tribute. It's quite a nice thing to do. And then sometimes they'll do it to hark back to kind of the glory days or a period in the club's history when there was more success, or just because they think that the more traditional supporters will like it. The older supporters, who might be more concerned about the way that the game's changed, the increased sort of globalization, the kind of the money that's in football now, they might think that they want to kind of show that they're still in touch with the fans that have been there for decades. So yeah, there's a few reasons why they might decide to pay tribute to previous designs. And personally, I think it's quite a good move that when it's done in quite a classy way, it can look really nice. I'd say, generally I'd say this is probably one of the more popular types of change, if that makes sense. But yeah, the Bordeaux fans weren't so keen on theirs.
And I found it interesting, and maybe why it didn't work as much. I'll bring it back up here just for a second. How they had the shading, and then they added that third color, right? So typically it's monochromatic, 2 colors, because the ease of print and digital media. But they used a third color and they added shading, and that makes it very hard to transfer, like universally, like we explained before. So it looks good, but I feel if they just took that shape, like that more modern shape, but just kept it the blue and white, I think they would have nailed it. Personal opinion, but
yeah, that makes sense.
And there's another one I found as well. Just I'm going to use this just as fodder as we continue on, because there's 50 different logos on this webpage. As I'm just bringing it up now. Barcelona, nothing huge, just took the FCB out and simplified the amount of lines. So still kept the Belgrana, if you will, but just a bit less and thicker, so it pops a little more, right? A little thicker lines on the football there as well. And I know you guys are going to hate me. Quickly, the story. I was overseas in the desert for a few months. The hat that I had was just trashed. I arrived in Barcelona. The Barcelona store was right there, and they had a hat, so I bought it. I needed a new hat. So it's actually their older design, but going back to Works on Clothing, do you see how they had to go monochromatic for it to work? They're already going crazy with 2 different colors of blue. The white, there's 3 colors, and bam, they got the red. They went crazy with this one. This is a very rare instance of where you can use a complicated design, multiple colors, and pull it off. And the hat's comfortable as fuck. I'm just straight up. It's super comfortable. But then, I mean, that looks perfect. Torino colors, harkens back to the history. Simple J. I can wear that out. There's only 2 colors everywhere. 2 colors. That's modern design. That's what you're going to get. All right. I think it's time for some fun. I'm going to bring up now. Actually, let's do that. I'm just going to scroll, throw out a couple examples. Just so we're looking broadly, right? A couple that I like Animal Planet. There's a very modern simplification, 2 colors. US Open, same thing, simplifying. I mean, that one was always simple. mean, Uber just making it more contact, all that that white space doesn't really work well when you're trying to move it into a design, right? When you're trying to put it onto stuff. Duncan, so we see all of these examples, and just going to bring this up as well. This is the most famous, the Starbucks logo history. Bring it up. Come on. Sorry. I'm just stumbling by here. This is not what I was hoping for. But anyways, as you can see, back in the day, it was very complicated. It was this, like, look at that. That's super intricate. Then they made it smaller, put it in the round design, Starbucks coffee. They then simplified it a bit more. And then they super simplified it back in 2011. And again, the round design, right? So we see these logos all over the place. It's not just in football. Like this is logo design. Before we dive into some of our games, Adam, was there anything else, any other maybe points you want to bring up that weren't in the article?
I think one thing I'd just like to add is that when it comes to a football club wanting to kind of increase their digital presence or appeal to a global fan base, it's not just, there's so many different things that they can do besides changing logos. There's so many different avenues they can go down. I just wanted to quickly bring up again Birmingham City. We've recently been taken over by American owners, including Tom Brady, who's now invested in the club. We've
lots of NFL fans, so I think that's actually a good drop. Tell us about this.
Because for the past decade, we've had a bit of a terrible time. We've had owners that have been sucking the club dry. We've been kind of fighting relegation from the Championship. We've had no money, but Tom Wagner took over the club. He's an American. He's a multi-millionaire or a billionaire, and then I think he's friends with Tom Brady, who's also invested in the club. So we were going into the international break, and we sacked our manager John Eustace, which was quite controversial with the fan base because he was a really nice guy. He was, like, last year he did a really good job with kind of no resources, and then our new owners have brought in Wayne Rooney as manager.
Yeah, I was going to say that's exciting.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And that's been really divisive because, you often see that, the best players aren't necessarily the best managers.
Yeah, Pirlo.
Pirlo, yeah.
Our fans have looked at his record in America with DC United, and they aren't too impressed. They've seen him manage in England with Derby County, who he actually got relegated with. Admittedly, they also had, awful owners at the time, and they had points deductions, and he had to do the best he could in difficult circumstances. But the point I'm getting to is that the reason that they brought in Rooney was because they wanted a big name, a kind of a marketable name who's got international appeal. Mm-hmm. Over in the US, obviously with his kind of MLS career, he's been one of the biggest names in the sport over the past kind of 20 years.
He's one of those names as an American. I'm Canadian, mind you, but like Canadian dash being American from this side of the pond where we're kind of dumb about football. Mm-hmm. Rooney is one of those names that people actually recognize, that they understand who that is.
Yeah, it's, he's huge. If I say to, one of my friends who's not into football, or my girlfriend who doesn't follow football, if I say, Rooney's our new manager, they know who that is. And that's kind of, again, that's another thing that a club might do rather than change the logo. That kind of thing's another way that they might kind of broaden their international appeal, the online appeal. I just wanted to kind of shoot on that in there quickly.
Of course, and you got to represent Birmingham, right?
Yeah, well, it's a great point that you bring up, because one of the counter arguments that we've gotten, or people tell us, is like, screw the American market. The American market's not that important. It kind of is, right? That is the largest consumer base in the world outside of China. And right now, why do you think a bunch of American owners are coming into the sport and a bunch of clubs are trying to appeal to American owners? Because they're trying to get where that cash flow is right now. Because if you look at it, and we'll talk more in a Serie A perspective, we've gotten at least 7 to 8 new American owners in the Serie A for Serie A clubs. Serie A is trying their best to get to that American market because the Premier League did a phenomenal job, right? Like, for example, Liverpool with Fenway Group, the Glazers, and Man United. Sporting performances aside, right? But like, when we're looking at it from that perspective, if football by itself isn't going to make you money anymore, it's the honest truth. It's not going to make you cash. You need to figure out other revenue streams and broaden your portfolio, because that was one of the issues that Inter and AC Milan had, where before they had this decade long of lulls, before they kind of shifted to more of a global appeal. I mean, Inter more so with China and AC Milan more so with the United States under Elliott, and now the Redbird Group. You can't, like, for example, you look at Napoli with De Laurentiis, they are, Italian focused. No one's buying Napoli gear. No one's looking at Napoli things.
Unless they're like
diehard
from Jersey.
fans.
Yeah, they're like, unless you're from New Jersey, you're not buying anything Napoli from the States,
Exactly, especially with the World Cup coming into the United States and Canada. All these European clubs are looking at, how can I make my brand more recognizable in the United States?
Yeah, because everyone's going to be watching.
How can I get the eyes? Every single European club is hoping that their star players perform at the World Cup, because then the American's going to say, hey, this Federico Chiesa guy, let me Google him real quick. Oh, he plays for this brand. Oh, hey, their shirts look dope. Let me buy a sweater. Because can we say that, like, and I'll say this more so from the United States perspective, it's not really morally acceptable to wear a jersey out in public anymore, even at games. Like, people don't do it anymore. Like, in all of our sporting events, people are wearing a polo with the logo on it, or as I'm wearing right now, a sweater with the logo on it when they go to games.
Jerseys are uncomfortable. They're not comfortable to wear. Nobody actually wants to wear them. That's why I have hoodies. I wear hoodies normally. I have like 5-6 Juventus hoodies.
Yeah.
If I had that old school crest, I probably would have. It would work on a polo maybe.
And our friend Kevin that goes and gets us stadium footage, Kevin's not wearing a jersey every time he goes into the Allianz. Like, he's wearing either a J shirt or shout out to our merch, but he's wearing our merch as well. But I don't see it. And the other thing is like, you got to make stuff that's easily recognizable. And if you hate having to appeal to the U.S. market, well, then make your market better. But
then we can't pay Pogba to do nothing.
Exactly. It's just one of those things where, like, I don't care. And I think the reason why a lot of people hate this logo is because there's not that much success tied into this logo. There's not, that
nostalgia built. Yeah.
Because, like, how many people are going to sit here and tell me the 1970s blurred zebra logo is amazing? Nothing really happened at that point. I mean, once you get into the 90s logo and the 2004 logo, I understand, because that's when Juve were on top of the world in a sense.
There was a lot of nostalgia attached.
There is, because there's a lot of lulls. Like, for example, the blurred zebra with the Juve on top. I don't hear people talking about that one.
And there's a couple things too I want to bring up, because one of the arguments I hear as well is like, well, okay, look at Manchester City. It wasn't that crazy of a change from one logo to the next, because in 1920 we got rid of the big crest and we modernized in 1920 to the simplified, just oval design. In the 70s we went a little crazy, went back to that oval design, and then we went to the next step. That's actually the evolution. If you go back to that Starbucks one, you want to get to the point where you don't even have to write your name on it, because you're that recognizable.
Yeah.
That
And
is end game.
also, a lot of people don't understand that the J's are formulated as a shield.
Okay, I'm getting to that. I have that.
Oh, I beat your thunder to it.
You
But
did. So actually, okay. I think we beat this horse /
You mean the
zebra
zebra?
/ and that's the
Bull.
other thing.
We
Is it a
switched from a
zebra?
zebra to a bull.
Is it a bull? Is it a zebra? Like where's the tradition, right? And the funny thing is the first shield was actually monochromatic, and then we added 2 more colors to it. Then we went monochromatic. Then we added those 2 colors back. Then we added this zebra thing that looked like I was on Quaaludes looking at the thing. You know, like what the hell's going on here? Then we went back to it. Took away the blue now. Oh, there's no blue. Well, you can't have that. Well, now we got rid of the stars. See, we can get mad at every little thing through the progression of this. Yes, this is the most drastic one, but it only took them 3 years to get rid of Juventus to go straight to the J.
Yeah, and to be honest with you guys, like this is my personal opinion now. This is where I kind of get a little bit more personal with y'all. Out of all these logos that are on here, the only one that I would wear in public is this one, where it makes sense for me to wear it in public. I mean, it's easy, it's recognizable. How many people like it's a big thing that you have done a big thing that people in the United States understand. Oh, hey, that's a nice Juventus sweater.
Yeah, they don't even need to know what Juve is really.
Yeah,
but hey, that's nice.
That's
I don't know,
nice
Adam.
sweater.
What's your feeling on our evolution of the J, the Juventus logo? And what's your favorite while we're at it?
Team, I think when you first changed the logo, my reaction was very much, I preferred the previous logo, as a kind of, I feel like my instinctive reaction whenever a team changes the logo is to take the more kind of traditionalist approach of, it's the old logo, I kind of associate it with the kind of the era that I got into football, I associate it with people like Buffon, Zidane, Pirlo from the kind of the noughties and the 2010s. But I've definitely warmed to the new logo in recent over the last couple of years. Like, I think looking at kind of what you're wearing right now, like you can see how well the logo, how well it kind of goes onto kind of clothing, onto hats, that kind of thing. So I think my favorite Juventus logo is probably still the previous one, just in terms of like aesthetics.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a nice logo.
Yeah, no,
I've never said it was a bad logo. I love this logo too. And apparently Adam loves it, but I mean, it kind of goes back to the modern design, doesn't it? Like it's just not modern.
Because it makes sense, right? That logo in the era that it was in, like 2004, 2003 until 2015, 16, every team was doing that kind of logo, right? That oval shaped logo. Porto was doing it. The Milan teams were in a sense doing it. Milan was a little bit, or Inter was a little bit more of an ellipse than that oval, but that was one of the things that teams were utilizing at that time. And now they're kind of shifting to this more, like, for example, with the Leeds design that he showed us, like that badge crest, like that shield crest-esque design. And you've literally just essentially showed the shield.
See how it becomes a shield. So we haven't, it's really not as drastic as it first appears, really, because that shield design is still fundamentally there. So I'm going to add another couple things here. And this just will show the weighting a little bit, right? So you can see it hits the green, but only goes down to the red at the bottom, right? It's the shield. It's a little more compact, which helps to put it into other designs than something as elongated as that. So when we start and this is Colin, I'll call you out. This is what I meant by like, let's get into Adobe Illustrator and actually look at things. And we're not even trying to make this, like if I was to open up a thumbnail right now and try to make things work, especially with those, unless I completely simplified the background, then I can have a complicated logo on it, right? And these are problems I have when I'm putting teams logos that are very complicated onto our background because I have to find that dead space in that background to work with it. Otherwise, it gets lost in the noise. So speaking of getting lost in the noise, this is for both of you guys. You haven't seen this one yet. These are the old logos. I'm going to start very zoomed out, and I want you to tell me where the Juve logo is. I know it's going to be very hard to see, but could you point out where the Juve logo is?
I think it's the first row, second one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I can pick out Porto, I can pick out Chelsea, Real Madrid. I think one of them's Fulham.
Okay. See, now this is interesting because there's multiple teams in here. You have a few things right. You also have a few things wrong.
Oh, I see. I see what I messed up on. The one bottom right is Newcastle.
Okay. But at this point,
But you can't ask us because we're like essentially commentators, so it's like easy for us to.
Okay, but this is, I mean, this is for everyone listening as well, right? Like, look on your phone, and can you definitively at this point? So you guys have given your guess, but you haven't said 100%. Like what?
I think one of them is zoomed in Izzy.
Okay, now here we go. You zoom in, things become a little bit clear. And I'm doing this because when we're on social media, when you're scrolling through X and there's that little logo beside the name on your 5-inch screen, so the thing is just that small, this is what we're talking about, making things stand out.
All right. So I think I was right? I got a Fulham. Oh, I didn't get that one's not Chelsea.
Nope.
So I got Udinese. One of them I think is Boyka Juniors.
Adam, you have any guesses in this one?
Yeah, I think that's Boca Juniors bottom left. Yeah, Newcastle bottom right. I think is that one of the Turkish teams second from right?
Yeah. I think it's Beşiktaş.
Yeah.
And then Dave has a middle. The one in the middle I think is one of the Borussia teams
that you can't pronounce.
Yeah,
okay, you guys, you're doing pretty good, but your faces are in your screen.
I know. I'm literally in my monitor right now.
So you guys got most of it. I think there was one, the top left. Did you guys get that one? Yeah.
I don't think we did.
Second, third one in from the bottom, you haven't got either yet.
I haven't seen that logo before, to be honest with you.
I've seen that team live, actually. Maybe that's a hint.
Oh God.
So now we're at 16% zoomed in. 25. Now at 25%, we can actually see who the hell we're looking at.
Shoot, I've been wrong. So
these are all
that wasn't even
teams. These are all teams that were black and white stripes.
Oh,
so
Dave,
how much does our logo stand out amongst the noise?
Not that well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where's our logo?
That's easy. Bottom left.
Easy left. We're zoomed all the way out. You picked it out right away. That's the new logo. What are the other logos? What are the other logos?
I don't care. Juve above everything.
They're the same ones. But you can see how immediately you're like, bam, there it is. That's the point I'm trying to make. That logo,
you Adobe'd the hell out of us.
That logo will stand the hell out of anything. And that's why it is what it is. All right. I think, I think I'm done with my rant with that. We're almost at an hour anyways. Crazy how we can go on stuff like this. Adam, I mean, this was super informative. I know I have my own biases, and I'm kind of coming at some of our listeners here. I don't know. We're Italian, so we're gonna do a bit of argument one way or the other, right?
I'm just here for the popcorn,
and he's here for the popcorn. But Adam, was there anything that you wanted to add, whether it's our logo or just anything? If you wanna, is there anything you need to advertise or upcoming projects that we should watch out for?
Honestly, I can't think of anything. One thing I will say is that any listeners who are looking for an English team to support, Birmingham City, we're on the up. So, maybe keep an eye on us. And if you want to read any more of my writing, I'm at adam-england.co.uk. But yeah, that's all I've got to add. Apart from obviously, thanks for inviting me on and having me. It's been great to chat and kind of go a bit deeper, talking about logos and stuff. It's been really informative for me as well. There's a bit of context around Juventus that I maybe wasn't aware of that I've learned. So yeah, it's been great.
And that's why we do this. We love reaching out, especially you also being a football fan.
Yeah.
We've done this a few times. Honestly, it doesn't matter which team you support. It's a football community at the end of the day. I mean, even if you're from Inter, we have put our differences aside, even for those guys. So, I mean, we can do it with anybody, right? Adam, your Twitter handle. Do you want people to know your Twitter?
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
Okay, so that was Garage Fowler. We should spell that out maybe for people.
You should.
So yeah, it's Garage. How does that work out? Let's get it up here. I'll type it in. And
you could just literally share the screen, Dave. I don't even know why you're just like,
I have to go to X.
Hey.
Because I'm dumb when it comes to Twitter.
Why do you gotta make it so hard for yourself?
Because I'm dumb when it comes to Twitter. I'm gonna just share the screen, and that's it. Dash, while I'm doing that, you should probably outro us, so I'm not here just stumbling and looking like a bit of a dummy.
That's the best part. But anyways, guys, just some brief stuff before. Again, obviously check out the live stream that Dave and I did Tuesday, where we're talking about the Italian national team and Fagioli stealing money from his teammates so he can bet and make stupid bets. So we gave our thoughts on Fagioli there. Again, I'm not too thrilled even with more of the stuff that's coming out, but I reserve comment for an actual stream dedicated to that. As well as check out Farhead's podcast with Fiago as well. Get those views up, people. It's a good podcast. You get to learn more about Fiago. And big ups to Adam for coming in, because Dave and I saw this article maybe like 3 or 4 days ago, and Dave's like, we got to get this guy on, and I'm like, let's do it. So thanks for the really quick turnaround, Adam, because it's really rare that we're able to kind of get someone that writes an article and get them on right after they write the article.
Yeah, like within the same week. Like that's insane. That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So. So we definitely got to strike while the logo is hot on this one. Yuck. But anyways, folks, remember, tune in this weekend. I will be back for a watch along against Milan. So finally, a 2:45 start time. So we'll be there. Hopefully, Dusan's back is not killing. Hopefully we get our players back. But barring any crazy new suspensions and scandals, thanks for tuning in, guys, and we'll catch you in on the new one.
And quick little drop, FC24, me and KF Squad, Hamza, our boy, will be commentating, doing a bit of a post-game press conference. So Juve Milan, FC24, that's happening tomorrow as well. Saturday.
Is he wearing a suit? I know he's going to wear a suit.
I hope so.
He's going to wear a suit. It's going to be hilarious.
Yeah, so we'll see you this weekend. Everyone, thank you. And Forza Juve.
Del Piero, rete del Piero, pallone con i contadini per Nedved, Pirlo, la conclusione in rete, Andrea Pirlo, un gol pazzesco, Del Piero, Pogba, rete, occasione incredibile, Pogba fa esplodere lo Juventus.